Hey guys, how's it going? It's been a while, I know, and I told you guys, since if you've been watching some of my videos, you should know by now that I'm not one of these guys that is constantly, putting videos out. And some of you would probably appreciate this because I don't try to spam your inbox with a lot of stuff just to make content because, that's not really what I'm after. I'm just basically just trying to help you guys out. Okay, so what we're gonna talk about today. So this came from a question from a close friend, a friend of mine, someone that I know besides outside of YouTube, asking me how to set up a project in GitHub so that we can have collaborators and collaborate back with each other and submit changes to a main source that exists in the project in GitHub and be able to make changes without overriding each other, and things like that, and how to secure this so that no one can forcefully make changes to the code and protect the branches, and all kinds of different things. This, before I go any further, this is a rabbit hole. Okay, it's a rabbit hole. You can go in there in that rabbit hole and find all kinds of different things and extra comments and extra things that you can do with GitHub, especially with the terminal. But that's really not necessary and not very common. So what I'm going to teach you here is basically what you will be using and doing on a daily basis in any job you're in. Okay, just the very basics, but it's also the most common stuff. All right, so let's get started. All right, so the first thing you're gonna need, and I'm going to bring my screen over here in focus. The next thing you're going to need is to have a GitHub account, obviously, right? So once you start a GitHub account, you can just start by creating your project for your company, right? If there isn't one already, and you just do that by creating new here. So once you create new and you create a name for this repository, right? For the source where this is going to live. So we're going to call this collab project, right? Let's just call it collab project. If you notice here, it says collab project is available, okay? And these names are just like a username for anything else out there, right? So you cannot have two repository names with the same name. So there will, eventually you're gonna have to get a little creative if your name you want is already taken, but that's not a big deal. You can always put a one at the end. It's no big deal. All right, so you can choose it. You can choose to have it public. You can choose to have it private. This really is entirely up to you. You still have total control over what happens in it. What makes a difference in between public or private is whether people are going to be able to find this by doing a search on GitHub and see what stuff is out there, and they will be able to see the code. So, but they won't be able to make any changes into it. Okay. Now, if you make it private, no one can see it. It's completely blocked. It's completely indoors. But not only can no one make any changes to it, but also they can't see the code either. So in most companies out there, everything is going to be private, but for right now we'll do it public. No big deal. All right, so the next thing that you're going to do is going to be the description. So the description is kind of important because especially if you have in a company where you have multiple GitHub projects. If you have multiple GitHub projects, you kind of want to give it a description so this project, what this project is for, right? For example, in my company, I have a number of them. Okay, I have a lot of them. So sometimes it's easier to just put a name, and not just a name, but also a description, because the name could be kind of vague sometimes. As you can see right now, collab project. It's not really. So here I'll say this is a test repository for to show how to collaborate. I can't type today. All right, how to collaborate with other people, with other users, with other GitHub users. Really, because I gotta make sure I specify that, because what brings me to the next thing is whoever you set up as a collaborator has to be somebody who has also an account in GitHub. Okay, but we'll get there. All right, so the next thing you want is an add README file. So I'll check this. Even if you never end up using the README file, I always check to add a README file, and I always have to add a git ignore added to it, which let's just not get there yet. So add a README file. So what is a README file? A README file is, as you go into any GitHub repository, most of them anyway, you're going to find that there's going to be a document that is going to be right there at the very front page of it that is going to explain some specific information about how to run this project, how to load it into the computer, if you need to have any kind of dependencies in place. So if it's a React project, you need to have Node installed and updated to the latest version of it, what have you, right? So so it's a good idea to have a README file, and if you never use it, that's okay. If you use it, it's already there, and if you don't do it, you can always add it later too, so not a big deal. But might as well just add it now. The reason why I add it now is also because GitHub will automatically fill this README file with basic information about this project, and that I don't have to write up later. So GitHub is gonna do it for me. All right, so now down to the git ignore. So the git ignore is a specific file that is read by Git, okay? And before we go any further, I should have said this from the beginning. One of the dependencies for this is to make sure that you have Git installed in your computer, right? So make sure that you go to Git, this right here, just basically Google it up, and go to Git right here, and make sure that you have the latest copy of Git installed on your computer, okay? You're gonna need this. So yeah, sorry about that. Should have said that at the beginning. But anyway, going back to the git ignore. So the git ignore, like I said, is a file that is read by Git itself, so that when Git is running, whenever you do a push or a pull commit to your Git branch, it's going to it's going to read this git ignore first, and it's going to say, okay, what's in here that I need to, what are some rules here that I need to watch out for? And in these rules, you're going to see things such as do not pass the node modules folder into my GitHub project, for example, right? That's a common one. Reason why is because the node modules folder is extremely large. So it's better to not pass it along every time you do a pull request and end up making it so big that you're gonna end up taking all the bandwidth that you have, right? So it's better to keep the node modules packages in your local copy in your machine. When your collaborator uploads the copy of the project into his machine, he should be able to generate his own node modules package and node modules folder, so that he can service his own project within his own local machine. Okay, there is going to be, here we are in the rabbit hole, there's going to be a package, that JSON file, that is going to be the one that is going to give the instructions to your collaborator as to which packages are going to be inside these node modules that you're not sharing with them. Okay, so you're not sharing the entire node modules with them, but you are sharing a package JSON with instructions to tell him when he uploads it that, hey dude, you're gonna need a node modules, so make sure you do this so that you can have the right stuff inside your node modules, right? So that whole entire thing makes the transfer of the transfer of data and code and all that across Git a lot easier and a lot faster. Okay, so this is why the git ignore exists. So if you do need something like that, just type on the git ignore here, and there's already templates that are already being done for you by GitHub also. So let's say this was a React project. Then if it's a React project, then it's a Node project. So you click on Node, and it will add a node, right? So if it's Angular, it will have also some stuff of its own as well, I think. No, actually Angular is still part of Node, so yeah, it makes sense. But if it's an Android, for example, that's going to be if it's Cake PHP, it's going to have a framework in itself. So a lot of the stuff are going to be very particular to see Python. There's a bunch of stuff in Python. You don't need to share back and forth. Everyone should have their own version of Python. So, but for this, because we're not doing any kind of specific project, I'm not going to have any git ignore added to it, because we're not doing any node project or Python or nothing like that. Okay. License. This is entirely up to you. I basically myself never really needed to do this, because every time I share anything across each other, across me and my developers, it's always been something for ourselves, nothing, to be public out there. But if you are messing around with public folders, if you like, for example, if you're building a plugin, or you're building some kind of package that you're going to put out there for the world to use, right? Let's say, for example, you but you make a copy of a masking tool for zip codes, input files, right? So that when people download it and install it into their computer, into their software project, they can, with minimal instructions, they can just basically type in and put some kind of a some kind of instruction inside your input field for a zip code, and it would automatically, as you type, puts it in. This kind of stuff already exists. This is just an example of the top of my head. So if you were to make something like that, you have to specify under what kind of license this belongs to. And most times it's going to be, if it's free, it's going to be MIT license, unlicensed, I guess. So I really, like I said, never really had to mess around with this. General public license also works, but if you are aware of needing a license and for what you're going to be doing, make sure that you pick it here. Okay, I'm not, so I'm not gonna do it. All right. So, and then the last thing is that you want to make sure is you read this right here. This is important. It says this will set the main as your setup and as your default branch. What it's basically saying here is that your main branch is, and the name of the branch that is going to be the main vein into the network of branches that you're going to have. The main one in the middle is going to be called main, and it's called main because it's the main one. All right, that's simple. All right, so now that you know everything that is involved here and what it's for, now we can go ahead and create the repository. So we'll give that a couple seconds. Boom, done. So remember when I mentioned about the README file? Here's the README file right here, and it basically contains this right here. That's all it does. Okay, there isn't much to it. You can add more to it later, but this is all there is right now. This is the initial commit. There's nothing inside it. It's just plain. Okay, so now that you did this, okay, we're going to now add a collaborator to your project, right? So to do this, you go to settings, and you go into settings, you go to collaborators. They move this around a little bit, by the way, and you're going to put in your password one more time. Make sure that you are in there. There you go. So now you're in collaborator, and you have two options here for public repository or direct access. This repository is the one that you're going to be able to manage. So that here's how you manage it and how you add people to it. So they're going to go into add people. Now, in order to add a collaborator, that collaborator has to be in GitHub. It has to have an account in GitHub, or you can just add your grandma, for example. Okay, I'm going to find myself and my other account, and there it is. And I'm gonna pick that one, and I'm gonna add myself, my other account for my one of my other accounts that I use for my other jobs, and add into this repository. So now that sends a notification and an invite, and it will show right here which collaborators you invited and which ones have accepted and which ones haven't accepted or whatever. So I'm gonna go to my other computer to accept that invite so that I can show here. Okay, so what this represents is you sending this invite as a collaborator to your buddy somewhere across the world, and waiting for them to approve it, right? You can basically send them an email, you can call them, and you can do whatever you want and tell them, hey, look, I invited you, go ahead and add it. So I'm going to pretend that I'm your buddy now, and I'm going to go to the other computer, which you can see because it's up here. It's up here. Yes, up here. All right. So if you're looking at me looking up, I'm not like praying or anything. It's just the monitors are up higher. Anyway, so so here I am, and I have no notifications yet. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. And I found myself up there. It says that the collab project, which is the one I'm creating down here, invitation exists, and it tells me that I have 7 days to approve it. So by the way, yes, your collaborators have only 7 days to approve this, and if not, you have to re-invite them. So they can choose to join or decline. I'm just telling you what they will see. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and say yes and join this organization and accept invitation. And so at this point, I am seeing on my other computer, I am seeing the project already. So now I'm gonna go back down here. I'm gonna go back down here, and then as you can see here, now the direct access now shows that I have 1 access to the repository and has 1 invitation now. It says pending invite because it hasn't been I haven't refreshed, but I could have removed it before I joined it if I wanted to. But if I refresh my screen, I should be able to. There you go. I am already here, and it says here that who has direct access to this. 1 collaborator. 1 person has access to this repository besides me, obviously, which is that guy, right? This guy, me guy. All right. So here I am. So now I'll be communicating with the other computer so that we can do some of the reviewing of the PRs and all that good stuff. So just hang tight, because eventually I'm gonna show you what the other side looks like as well. Okay, hopefully, yes, I'll show you what it looks like once I send something from there to myself. But for right now, back to the repository. So I click on the main name right here, and I see that the code is over here, and it has this little blue dot right here, and this blue dot basically tells you that it's a new code, that it hasn't been cloned, there's nothing about it yet. Okay, and there are some notifications up here that said that things have been created, and there are some security vulnerabilities and blah 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 blah. And all that good stuff, really what it means is that you created this thing, but your branches are not secure because you haven't protected any other branches, and anybody can just, not anybody, but the other collaborator can just start making PRs and merging them himself, okay, to his PR. That shouldn't be done that way. The owner, the project owner, should be the one that approves and or merges the changes, okay? And we're gonna go over that. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna actually start working on this. We're gonna actually make this work. So if you click here and you grab this piece of code right here by just clicking there, copy, then I'm going to go to my terminal. Okay, I made it real big. I hope you can see this. I'm gonna go to my terminal here, and I am going to go to where my folder where I'm going to be putting my stuff is gonna be, right? So first thing before I do that is I'm going to set up a folder somewhere where I want my project to be. Okay, all right, I'm gonna put it there inside of Lewis. Okay, and I'm going to create a new folder, which is gonna be for my collaboration project. So I'm gonna call this collaboration. I'm not gonna call it exactly like what my project is called, because then you're gonna see 2 folders, one inside of the other, and they're named exactly the same. That could get confusing. So I always name the parent different than the child. So this one I'm gonna call it collaboration project itself, and then inside it, after I do what I do, after I pull, there is eventually going to be a folder called collab project, like you see back here. So it's gonna look better. So now that I am here, I can now go to open up an instance of my Visual Studio Code, which I thought I had already opened. There you go. So I'm gonna go into my Visual Studio Code now, and I am simply just gonna go to it. Okay, so I'm gonna open my folder. There are other ways that you can get to it, by the way, like for example from here. Let's do that instead. So right here I can figure out first where it is that I am, so I can put ls to find out where I am. And if I recall correctly, I think I'm inside Lewis, so I'm just gonna put cd Lewis, and then I'm gonna put list again to find out what's in it. Yeah, that's right. And you see where it says collaboration project in here, so that's where I want to go, right? So I'm gonna cd call and then tab, and then that automatically brings collaboration project, and hit enter. And then when I hit enter, I am already in collaboration project. You can see that the name from where I first started over here went to this one, so this is where I am now. Okay, so this is just another way to add your project to Visual Studio without having to look for it through the Explorer. Okay, without having to do it through the Explorer, you can do it through the terminal this way. All you have to do is basically find out first where you are with ls, and then cd into until you find the root folder, and then while you're in there, you're gonna put code and a dot, space and a dot, and then you're gonna do this. And as soon as you do that, it's gonna open up a new instance of Visual Studio Code, but already inside the collaboration project. There it is. See, collaboration project. So I don't need this one over here actually, so I'm just gonna close that one. And here I am inside a collaboration project. Minimize this search. All right, and it says here, this is just because I have an extension here for Git, right? So it's telling me that there was Git repository found and as part of this parent folder. If I want to use it, blah blah blah. But we're not gonna do it this way. We're gonna do it as if you didn't have this stuff. I want to do this so that it's not extensions dependent. So I'm just gonna close that. All right, so inside the collaborations now, okay, maybe I lied. You see, we're going to do a little bit extensions dependent. You see this down here that says terminal, this little thing down here. I don't know if you can see. Let me just pull it up a little bit more. This little, whatever that is, toggling to integrated terminal. I like using the integrated terminal because it brings this terminal right into my Visual Studio screen, and I can do all my work inside the graphical, inside the interface. Okay, so but this is entirely up to you. You don't have to have this. You can just hide this and do all your work out here, or you can have this, which by the way, all you have to do is go to your extensions and look for terminal, which is going to be right there, terminal all in one, and yeah, that's it, terminal all in one. And then just download that, install it, and you're good to go. You're gonna have access to here, which you can create a bunch of different more terminals. Okay, all right. So now that I have that there, I technically don't need this anymore. So it's one less screen that I have on my screen, and I can just basically bring that down because I don't need that either. So now while I'm here, it's time. Now that I am in a place where this is my local root. Okay, this is my local root. So this is where all my coding is gonna happen, and it's gonna be my local shelf, my local copy of the project. This that I'm doing right now is not me working in the GitHub copy. The GitHub copy is going to be intact no matter what I do here until I start committing changes to it. But in the meantime, everything that I'm doing right now is not affecting there yet because I'm not working on there. I'm working on my own local one. All right, so I'm here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna come over here and copy it, which I already did. Come to this little code box here and copy that, and back to here. Let me bring this a little smaller so I can toggle. All right, and then here you're gonna put git clone, and then the name of the project, or the name of the URL, sorry, the name of the URL that you're trying to, and then hit enter, and then it's going to basically clone the project that you have there, all your files inside your collab project. And here it is, and now all I have in there right now is your readme file that you saw earlier. There it is. So that's all there is to it, really. Now remember when I said that it's always good to name your main folder a little bit different? It's because when you open it, you're gonna see your collab project in there, so you don't want to name it the same, and then you're gonna see more stuff in there as you go along. So this is your main root, local root, and this is your root for your project, and this is your local root. There are two different things. Local root and project root are two different things. Alright, so now that I am in here in my collab project, now what I'm going to do is you have to cd into your project, okay? Because right now I am working on my local root. I'm working on my local root. If I add anything here, if I do any changes, if I create a no modules package, anything at all, it's gonna name it, it's gonna put it outside of my project. It's gonna put it in my local root, okay? You don't want, nothing that you put out there is going to end up in GitHub because it's outside of the scope. So I have to make sure that I cd into my project and hit enter, and now I am actually inside the project where I need to work. If you want to, you can do another code dot, and so you can enter it in a fresh screen, or you can just work from here. I like to actually do that. I like to actually do code it and then open up a brand new Visual Studio where I am already in my in my project root, not my local one, my project one. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna give it a second, and there it is. Now I can go ahead and close this one if I want to. Won't need it. And here I am in my local one, not my local one, my GitHub project. Okay, close this search. Alright, so now that I am here, I am going to create a folder or a file actually. I'm going to create a file here. And again, what I said about, what do you call it, rabbit hole. You can go into the terminal here and you can start, and you can do, for example, you can create files through your terminal if you really so choose. Right, so you can just come over here, for example, you can create a folder, you know, but creating a directory and things like that. But why complicating yourself? Just create a folder right here like this, and let's just call that an src folder. All right, and then in there, let's just go ahead and put a file in there, and let's just name it index.html. And then inside that index.html, I'm going to put a little dot, a little exclamation point, and then this emmet plugin inside of Visual Studio is going to generate all of this code right here, right? So I just create that, and then there it is, my document type. It's basically an HTML file. And then in there, I'm going to just put an H1 that's going to say hello. All right, that's it. This is how you create your website, pretty much. All right, so now that's done, and I'm going to go ahead and create save, like Control S, right? So everybody knows what that is. All right, so now that I'm here and I have created that, if I go back to my project here and I look at my project now, my branch, right where I am, the main branch, there's nothing there, right? I gotta open it up. There's nothing there. There's still just all in the same, right? I can go ahead and send this and add this, and it will add it, but it will add it to my main branch, okay? That's a no-no. You never want to send anything into your main branch. Your main branch should be protected. It should not be something that you can override all the time, okay? Everyone should be able to work in their own sub-branch or in the other branch spawned from the main branch. So the main branch should always stay the way it is, and then you can create branches off the main branch that branch out, and then eventually after they committed changes, they meet back into the main where you're going to solid unify everything. And the main one should only have a copy of all the codes from everyone else unified into one working code. These right here is person A, person B, all the collaborators, broken branches that never went anywhere, whatever. But this one right here will always be up to date. Okay, so what I did right now, no good. But let's just say, and this is a good thing about Visual Studio, it tells you which branch you are down here. That's how you know that you're working on the wrong place. It will happen. Trust me, it will happen. I have seen it a million times where developers are working in the wrong branch and then they're like, oh, now what, right? If it's something as simple as this, you can just delete it and go back, right? Create a branch, start all over. But if there's a lot of work, there's a lot of work, right? So I'm going to introduce you to a new thing. I mean, new for some of you, not for all of you, but some of you. And it's the stash, okay? So the stash command makes a copy of everything you've done and puts it away. It stashes it away, right? It puts it away somewhere so that you can go back to where you were when you were last updated, right? Which in this case is a clean canvas. Go back to where you were and create your branches, do what you gotta do, and then once you have a new branch, then you can pull back this stuff that you stashed into the new one, and then you're in the right branch with the right stuff. Okay, so let's do that. All right, so we're not supposed to send anything to the main branch, so we're gonna first, what we're gonna do is, because we made a boo-boo, we're gonna do git stash. Okay, and you can name it if you want to, or you can just say git stash and just stash this away. But for right now, I'm not gonna name it. I'm just gonna say git stash. No local changes to save. Well, that's crazy because they are right there, uncommitted. I think that only works if you have added. Let's do it. Let's add it. Now let's go ahead and git stash. So there you go. All right. So first add it by typing git add dot space dot. So what git add space dot creates is a package. It creates a package with all your content, and it puts it into a little package that you're gonna be able to transfer everywhere, right? So then once the package has been created, then you can put git stash, and that git stash gets that package and puts it away, stashes it away, because you don't want to send it to GitHub yet. Okay, it stashes it away and it brings your branch back to 0. See this? We're back on 0 again, and this HTML technically has a line on it. It means that it doesn't exist, right? That it can be found. It's on the screen because you haven't refreshed it, but it's there. Now, however, I haven't lost this. This is in my stash. So now that we know that we stash everything on the main, it's back to where it goes. Now we should start doing what we should be doing, which is creating my personal branch to work off the main. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna create git. We can do this two ways. I can either create the branch and then check it out, or I can do it both together. Create the branch and check it out both at the same time. If you're going to do it together, all you have to do is put not that git checkout b, and then whatever you want to name your branch. You could do it like that, and that's like a simpler way to do both commands into one. But this is an instructional, so we're gonna do it separate. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna create a branch off of the one that you're working on right now, which is the main. So you're gonna make a duplicate, a spawn of main. So you're gonna put git. Ooh, you already have git there. So git branch, and you're gonna name it. What are you gonna name it? Some projects will have ticket numbers. You can use that as your name for your branch. That's actually the right way to do it. You can name it your name. You can name it a description. Name it whatever you want. It's typically better to have some kind of organization with consecutive numbers, so that you can always track, see which one came first and which one came later. So start your own consecutive number, and you're gonna call this one collaboration project, collab project dash 001, because it's going to be your very first branch. I'm sorry, this is not supposed to be there. So this will create, and then pay attention to what happens over here later, okay? That's gonna change. So git branch CP001, and I create it. Now once I do this, that's it, the branch is created locally, just locally. Now I'm gonna go git and check out the branch that I created, 001, and I just switched over to the branch. So now you see down here, it doesn't say main anymore, it says CP-0001. That means I'm working now not on main, I'm working on 0001, which is running right next to main, and it's an identical copy of main, but this one is going to have changes on it. So now that I did that, I can put git stash apply, and it brings back my stash that I stashed away, and I put it that I made by mistake, and I stash it away. It brings it back to where I am. Now you can see here your source is back there, your index file is back, everything is back. You're in the right place. Okay? The reason why I wanted to show this is because I guarantee you this will happen to you at some point. Okay? It happens to me, it happens to everybody. You don't realize that you did a pull from your main branch because you wanted to have your main branch up to standard, up to code, updated, and you forgot to create a branch, and you started doing a bunch of code, and a couple of days passed, and you have thousands of lines of code already created, and then you're like, oh, I'm on the main branch. Trust me, it happens. Tell me in the comments if this happened or not, because I know it did. All right, so now that you have created this, and you're happy with this, and this is what you want to do, okay? I'm going to go ahead and send this to my project now. So I'm gonna put git add dot to create a package, right? I'm gonna add all of my code into one package, and then I'm going to put it in. The next comment is gonna be git commit dash m, and then in here I'm gonna put in between parentheses a comment about what is included in this thing that I'm sending, and you gotta be a little bit descriptive, okay? So it's not just some gibberish. So I'm just created an index that HTML file, and then hit enter. Once you hit enter, you're gonna be prompted here that one file changed, which 12 insertions, which is 12 lines of code, one file with 12 lines of code, and a bunch of gibberish here, and whatever, okay? So that's it. Now you're ready to go ahead and push it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put git push origin, and then I'm gonna put my CP-0001. So what this does is basically this commit that you created, this package, it pushes it over to GitHub so that we can deal with it over there. And I hit enter, and everything should tell me that it's sent. There you go. Perfect. No issues, nothing in red. That means there was a good communication. You know, a lot has to do with your machine also connected to GitHub as well, to your GitHub account. If you're not connected to your GitHub account, you're not going to be able to do this. So if you're having errors, make sure that you are that your GitHub is connected to in your Visual Studio Code. So now let's go back to the browser. As I go back to the browser, I find here now that I have my my branch here, right? That I just sent some information, some new stuff to my code. The other collaborators don't know this yet. This is only going to show on mine because I haven't done anything to alert them or to let them know yet. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click compare and pull request. If this is not here for some reason, you can find it inside here, but it's already here, it's already prompted, so it's good. Compare and pull request. So I'll do this, and then I make sure that here I have the branch that the main branch should be the one that I select in here, because this is the branch. This right here is where I'm going to merge to. This is where I'm going to merge from. So don't do this. If you do this, this doesn't make any sense. You're gonna end up putting an old one instead of a new one. This nothing can work here. You got to make sure that this is the one that's going to go to, and this is the one that you are bringing in, right? And now you can see that you have able to merge. That means that everything is good to go, and this could be automatically merged, which is a problem, and we're going to tackle that in a minute. There are no reviewers, but you can if you wanted to. You can come over here and you can find your reviewers are already, your collaborators are already there, and you can click on that, click off it, it will be there, and then you can just go ahead and create a pull request. And once you create a pull request, you're gonna see some information here now. You're gonna see that the name of the commit. Remember when I back here where I wrote this, created and named this HTML file in the commit? That's why we do that for, so that it's here, okay? And then it tells you who did it, you know. So Lotus MS requested a review from El Silva HBO now, right? And when it happened, and this is the number for the commit. There's some information here that could be used, okay? Now, because this project doesn't have any protections yet, everything is green, everything's good to go. I could merge myself. I don't even have to wait for this guy to approve it, which is bad. Okay, so for right now, just for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just say merge it myself, just so you can see the changes. So I'm gonna see that, and then I'm gonna confirm the merge. It's gonna be purple. There it is. Purple is good. That means that it has been merged. It'll show right here, and now the main. So if I go back to my project right here, the main, you see now is different. It has the source folder, and inside the source folder there is the index HTML file. So it has the changes, they've been merged, everything is working, everybody's happy. Okay, everybody's happy except for the code owner, right? The owner of the project is not happy because you did this on your own, basically. All right, but before we touch that, let's figure out first how to update my local now, because now my local needs to be updated, because there are changes from the main. If I start to keep making branches off of what I have now, as of right now, it's maybe there will be no problems, but eventually the main is going to change so much from my main that any copies that I make of my main is just going to be too far apart from the actual main. So the branch is basically not going to be able to tie together again, especially if you delete some files. So it's always good to make sure that your main is updated, okay? Every time you send somebody and it's been merged, somebody checked it in and they merged it, somebody else checked some stuff and they merged their stuff, have some good communication across all your developers so that everybody knows that everybody sent something in, okay? But now that I know that some stuff has been sent in, I can come over here now and I have to check out my main so that I can update it. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put git checkout main. So what this does, it brings a local copy of my main up, right? So you can see right here that my main is empty, just the readme. So it puts my main back up. Now I gotta pull the changes that happen in my project. So I'm gonna put git pull. And once I do that, you can see that 12 lines of code are coming in, 12 insertions. And now my git is up to date and I am on my main. Perfect. And that's basically how you do it. All right. So now I am going to go to my other account, and I have to do some work over there because I have to make sure that I make a local, everything that you saw me do here, I got to do it over there so that I can actually start sending stuff back, submitting work from that username, and then create a PR. And then once you create a PR, then I can tell you how it's been, how I can show you then how to approve it and all that stuff, right? How to approve a revision and things like that. So I went to my other account and I made sure that I pull my changes and stuff like that, and able to create a branch and sent it in. So I made a PR request, a pull request, which by the way, the most common name for it is PR. So you're gonna hear that a lot. PR, PR, PR. Okay, so I created a PR. So back in my main account, I can see now as the owner here that there are two branches. If I look at it, I can see that there is a 001, which is the one that I created earlier, and there is a 002, which is the one that I created, or that my collaborator created recently. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this. I don't need that. All right, so this right here is the one that is open. So if you see this dot right here, this number right here on the pull request, tells me something is going on there. So if I open it up, I can see that there is a pull request that has been sent or opened by the other user account, right? And it says added a line to the index HTML file. So as I click on that, I can see here what he did. Basically, he didn't add any descriptions, in this box here, but he just basically named. Sometimes you don't need a description because it's pretty simple, but if there is a description, it will show there. But it says here that it's added a line to the index HTML, which is all I really need to know. And he requested a review from me about a minute ago, right? And so basically I can just go ahead and merge the pull request right away without reviewing it, or I can actually go here and click on it and actually see the changes. As you can see here, this stuff down here usually means bad, and no new line at the end of file. That's more of a Python thing. I mean, it's not a Python thing, it's a thing for everybody, but I'm saying that it doesn't really affect an HTML file from rendering. It doesn't do anything. But if it was a Python, I would that means something in Python. So, but so anyway, so back to the pull request, I can basically see that there is no issues with it, and I can just merge the pull request. Now, here's the thing. Before I go any further, this has been my pet peeve since the forever time. Okay, for some reason people always send PRs to people who are basically the business owners, but they're not subject matter experts, and that's a problem. Because, for example, I'm the business owner for this particular project, the collab project that we're working on right now, but I am not a Python developer. Okay, I'm a front-end developer. I don't really deal with the back-end a lot. I have absolutely no idea. If you were to share some Python code with me, you could fill it up with a bunch of gibberish and a bunch of broken stuff, and I still will never know what the hell you did, because I'm not a subject matter expert when it comes to Python. So the whole purpose of a review is to make sure that you're bringing in code that will work, not broken code. How am I supposed to know if it's broken or not if I don't know anything about Python? So my best guess is to always have an administrator that can deal with several types of code and knows a little bit of how to catch things. Okay, but anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and merge this pull request, and I can go ahead and add something to it or just confirm it. So I can confirm the merge by clicking here, and it's merging, and it's done. If I go to my other account, I will show there in purple that it's been merged by me. And I already showed you this earlier. Just to rewind a few steps behind, you're gonna be able to see it when I did it to myself, when I added my own stuff. Now, so everything right now looks fine, except for one thing. We still haven't protected this branch. We are still able to overwrite our own stuff and save our own stuff. That's not good. Okay. So the last step on this is going to be to show you how to protect the branch. How to protect the branch, so that no one can, no one can just basically update themselves and start sending broken code in there, so that reviewers actually do mean anything. Okay. All right. So first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go to settings, and they changed this around a little bit, so I am sorry if I end up looking lost. Let me check here. Look at that. Just go to branches. So go to branches, and then you're gonna see branch protection rules here, and then you see a main. No, you will not be able to get here unless you are an administrator. Okay. So my other my other account is a collaborator account. So my other account is not going to be able to see what I'm seeing right here. Only I can see this because I am the administrator of this project. I'm the one who created it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a protection rule to this branch. So if this is not the branch that I want to protect, then I want to then edit it and find the branch that I'm going to protect. But it makes sense that you want to protect the main branch. So what you need to do is you need to go to the make sure that you keep this main branch in here as the one you're going to protect, and then you add branch protection rule down here. So you click on add branch protection rule, and the first thing you're going to do is name the rule, right, so that you can identify it later. And this one is going to be main branch protection. I'm going to call it that. And then here are two big ones that you need to check. This one, require a pull request before merging. So this will make sure that it requires approval before it gets merged. So no more doing it yourself or any of that. Okay. You can click require review from code owners if you wanted to. There are different ones that you can do as well. You can go over some of these, but these are just the main ones, which is require a pull request before merging and make sure that it require approvals. So that's so that if they say decline, for example, or just a comment, you'll see that later, then it doesn't go in. It has to be approval only. Require a conversation resolution before merging. So basically there will be a conversation in the ticket, in the PR. So the PR has to be marked as closed before it can be merged. That's kind of weird. Some people do that, but I don't really like it. So anyway, there's a bunch of stuff here. I'm not gonna go through all of this. Okay. You can lock the branch. That's a rule that you can do. But however, do this branch lock separate. Okay. All right. But basically, what this does is it disallow people it makes that branch a read-only. People cannot push to this branch. Okay. So because this is the main branch, I'm actually gonna do that. So lock the branch. All right, and then where is the one for administrators? Oh, that right here. So it used to be called apply to administrators or something like that. Make sure you check this one as well. So this one specifically makes sure that even the administrators need to have these rules applied to them. Okay, you don't want administrators to have total control in it. I mean, if it's your project, your company, your GitHub, your PR, your website, your world, okay, why not? But it's not good practice. Okay, so once it's done, I'll go ahead and create. I'm just gonna give it a second. Rule is invalid. Which one is invalid? Branch protection rules define whether collaborators can delete on. Okay, this is the name pattern. All right, I'm just gonna name it main. Require, lock, and do not allow. Create. Okay, it was just the naming convention. The name of the rule can't be a sentence. I guess it has to be the name of the branch that you're going to apply it to. So, all right, at least it worked, right? All right, so now that's done. That's good. Okay, branch protection rule is created. You can close that now. Okay, so let's test this. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I am going to remember I merged 0002 to the thing. So that means that my main, as you can see, doesn't have his changes. So I need to do something here, right? I need to bring it back to current. So I'm gonna do a git pull from my main, and there it is. This is what my other collaborator did. So now let's see if we can send stuff to main. If we can send stuff to main, if I can push anything to main, then I know that this branch is not locked. So first I gotta add something to the code. I gotta change it somehow, and I'm going to just put another paragraph here. Is main locked? and I'm going to save that. So now that that's saved, and I'm gonna go ahead and add it to a package, commit it with a message, and it's going to say testing log, testing main log, testing main log, and I'm gonna commit it. So far so good. It's supposed to let you go this far. It shouldn't let me go any further. So if I go push now, git push origin main rejected. So you see down here now it says that I failed to push to the blah 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 because it's locked. Okay, so this is perfect. Okay, nobody else in our project will be able to tamper with the main line, right, with the main course of the code. So what do I do in situations like this? I said this earlier, right? Git stash, no local changes to save. I guess I have to do the thing again with the add, huh? Git add, and then git stash, no local changes to save. Oh, because this is the commit. Alright, so git branch, git checkout. I'm gonna create my branch. Git checkout b, and then this one is gonna be CP0003. Alright, I'm in the next one. Now I'm gonna add it. I'm gonna create a package on this one. There you go. Git commit. Added the test code to new branch. Branch. That's like branch, but with some southern, accent in the branch. That's committed. Nothing to commit. Working to clean. Okay, so now go ahead and git push. Git push origin CP-003, and there it is. So now let's see if that worked. If I come over here and I go back to my main, I'm gonna see that 003 has some recent stuff in there. I'm gonna create a merge, testing the main lock. There it is, and I'm going to create the pull request. And I have my reviewers that I did not add, so I'm going to request it. I missed to do that, but now it's there. Alright, so now as you can see, it's red. That's good. This means that the review is required, and that means that I cannot, remember this used to be green and I could just overwrite myself. I can't do this anymore. Now I need somebody else to review this and make sure that I'm not sending bad code in there. So I'm gonna go to my other account and make sure that I bring myself up to date there as well. So I am going to go to my other account, which is what I'm doing. I'm just walking you through what I'm doing, and I see the PR, and I'm going to go ahead and add the review and what I gotta do, and then I'll show you. I'll do it back. I'll do the same thing back so you can see what I'm seeing. You can see it later, but for right now, I'm just gonna show you how it works. You know what? I made a mistake. So the rule, remember when I said to lock the branch? So when you lock the branch, you actually lock it from even from PRs. So that's not good. So I apologize about that. But I did say that they changed this stuff around a little bit, okay? So let's just edit that and lift that part. Okay, so I'm gonna lift that lock, because that lock, what it does is it basically locks the branch forever. Okay, so I'm gonna save that, so that way I'm able to merge the PR into this. Alright, let me go back over to the other one. If I come over here and I go to my project over here, and then I can see now that my index should have, see, it's main locked. It was reviewed and it was added by my other account. It was merged in. So now again, I gotta I could do a pull from my main. No, I have to do a pull from my main, but my point is, I know I'm good. All right, now I'm gonna make another change from my other account, another branch and another change, and send a PR from there so that you can see what I see as the reviewer. Okay, so excuse me while I do it on this side as well. So I'm gonna go as fast as possible. I'm gonna check out main, and I'm gonna do a git pull. There it is, and I'm gonna now create a branch, git checkout -b. This one is gonna be 4, right? 0004. There you go. Cool. Okay, so last one to show approvals, reviews. Now, last one to show how reviews work. There you go. That's good enough. All right, save it. Add it to a package. You should know what I'm doing right now, even by just saying this. And I'm gonna commit. Added one last line. That's just a comment, and I'm gonna push it. S4. What'd I do? Git push CP4. Does not match any. Oh, I put too many zeros. Oops. Alright, so this one is not gonna be 004. It's gonna be 00004. I messed up. No big deal. It's just a name. Alright, so that's good. Now I can come to my project and see that I have something there. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and create, and I'm gonna add myself as my other account as a reviewer. Create a pull request, and it should look exactly to what you saw earlier on my, before you were doing it. Okay, good. Now it's review. All right, so now I'm gonna jump back on my account here and show you now what happens when someone makes a PR, but they can merge it themselves. It needs you to approve it. Okay, so if I come over here and I should see a pull request, I see it right here, added one last line, and I open it up, and then I can see basically what you saw earlier, but somebody else created it now, right? So before I go in there, right, I can check out the code, I can do whatever I want, but then I can go here and add my review, and then I can look at it and it's like, okay, so I can see the changes. You see, this is my current one in GitHub. This is the one he's sending in. Right, last one to show how reviews work. I like it, no big deal. Review changes, and I can approve it. If I put request changes, what I'm doing is basically sending it back. It will not be merged. So I'm gonna go ahead and approve, and I'm gonna say this is good to go, and I'm gonna submit the review, and now it's gonna say merge pull request, ready for merging, and confirm merge. Good to go. Saved. I can see in my other account over there that there is a message that said is merged and good to go. And now if I come over here, I am going to check out what am I doing? Oh, check out main and git pull, and as I pull main, there it is. There's the 3 lines of code. Everything works great. Everybody's up to date. No issues. All right, and that's basically all there is to it. There's, that's like I said, there is a rabbit hole to go into here with as far as the being a manager for an account. Like, there's so many different things that you can do, but this is the very basic, and it also helps if you have a pro account like I do, because it allows you to do even more things. But yeah, this is basically all you're ever gonna need to manage a project at the lowest level. All right, okay, have fun, guys. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and click or whatever. I always put this message at the very end, so you don't have to be interrupted by this. You can just go ahead and leave right now. But if you're still staying there, just make sure that you hit the bell and do all the stuff, so that in case, I come up with something else now or in a month or in a year, you can see it. All right, bye.